What is up, guys? It is Marcus from Perspective Sports, and we are back to finish the second half of our NFL season prediction series. And I took a little bit of a break to see which players are going to opt out due to COVID, because when I was doing the first half, a slew of players just decided we're just not going to play this year, and that kind of threw a wrench in things. So I decided to sit back, relax, and see what happens. And not a lot has happened since then, which is a good thing. We're going to get a high-quality football season. And so, with that being said, I'm filming this in between classes, so let's get it done. And today we're going to be talking about the AFC South. And this is one of the tougher divisions, if not the toughest division in the NFL, because I could see a world where the Indianapolis Colts, Houston Texans, or Tennessee Titans win this division. And you can't say that about most divisions. You can't usually see three different teams being able to win the division. And so this division is particularly special this year. And when you look at this division historically, it belongs to two teams, the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts, who have combined for 15 of the 18 AFC South titles since 2002. And last year, this division belonged to the Houston Texans, who had an interesting offseason to say the least. Let's start with the elephant in the room, where they traded away wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins for practically nothing. And that took over the offseason for the Texans. That was the headline. That was anything else the Texans did didn't matter, because that was the top story. And that's where you get the memes from Bill O'Brien not wanting talent on the team. And to be honest with you, I don't think that's a meme. But anyway, they did a decent job this offseason. When you take a look at it from the objective mindset, they signed wide receiver Randall Cobb, offensive tackle Brett Quavel. They signed cornerback Eric Murray, who played well last year for the limited amount of time that he got. They also re-signed tight end Darren Fells. They re-signed cornerback Bradley Roby. They had a good offseason, and they also traded for wide receiver Brandon Cooks, and they got David Johnson in the deal back for DeAndre Hopkins. But when you look at David Johnson, he's been injury riddled. His play has just steadily declined over the last couple of years, whether it be the injury. Maybe it was time for a change of scenery, and maybe Houston can be that place where he gets his fresh start. And when you look at the Texans' schedule, before we get on that, I want to say that I think most NFL teams are going to struggle out the gate, especially offensively, because there's no preseason, there's no inter-squad scrimmages. It's just you playing the same people over and over again. You learn tendencies, you learn how to cut corners. And so I don't think that's conducive for our offense, especially when you see the same people every day. You know their tendencies, you know how he plays this route, and you're not getting that fresh different. You're not getting that 110% either. You're not getting that in-game action, in-game feel. And so that's going to be rough for offenses out the gate. And I think it's going to be rough for offenses in teams in general with a lot of turnover year over year. And when you look at the Texans wide receiver group, there's quite a bit of turnover there. And so when you start your season off at Kansas City versus Baltimore, at Pittsburgh versus Minnesota, that's a brutal first quarter of the season. And when you look later on in the schedule, weeks 13 through 17 will also be very tough weeks for the Houston Texans, and very important weeks, because they'll play the Colts 2 times in 3 weeks with a game at windy, cold Chicago in between. That could be a trap game. And then they end the season off at home against the Tennessee Titans. That could be a very, very important game for the Houston Texans. And so, speaking of the Tennessee Titans, they surprised a lot of people last year when they went on their magical playoff run that saw them go to New England and beat the Patriots. Not a lot of teams can say they did that. Then they went up against the hottest team in the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens, made light work of them. And then they went up against the Kansas City Chiefs, where they lost. But that's not the point. They went on to lose to the eventual Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, but that run was magical. And the Titans lost a lot of talent this offseason, cutting running back Deion Lewis, tight end Delaney Walker, defensive end Cameron Wake. They lost cornerback Ryan Logan to the New York Giants, left tackle Jack Conklin to the Cleveland Browns, and then they traded away Jarrell Casey. This team lost a lot. It wasn't all losses for the Tennessee Titans. They did sign defensive end Jadeveon Clowney to a 1-year, $15 million deal. They did franchise tag running back Derrick Henry, re-signed quarterback Ryan Tannehill. And in the draft, they had a couple of very good pickups, in my opinion, selecting offensive tackle Isaiah Wilson out of Georgia and getting a steal in cornerback Christian Fulton out of LSU. And so I don't think we can think of the Titans in the same capacity as we saw them in the playoffs last year. I think they just lost a lot of talent. And when you look at this team, they have some rough patches. at Minnesota versus Pittsburgh versus Buffalo versus Houston. I know 3 of those games are at home, but those are against very good teams. And those are from weeks 3 to 6. Then they'll have a 3-game stretch where they'll play the Colts 2 times in 3 weeks, which is becoming a trend in this division. But they'll have at Baltimore in between those games. And so I don't feel like we'll see Tennessee take a substantial step forward this year. If anything, they'll take a step back with the amount of talent they lost this season. I think they're going to be a very competitive team, but it's just not going to be the same playoff Titans that we saw last year. Then we have the Indianapolis Colts, who brought in quarterback Phillip Rivers from the San Diego/Los Angeles Chargers, where he spent the first 16 years of his career. And the Colts still do have Jacoby Brissett on the roster, so if God forbid something happened to Phillip Rivers, they do have an experienced veteran who's been in the system before taking snaps, so it probably wouldn't be the worst case scenario for the Colts, like a lot of teams that would just go into panic mode and try to figure out what is going on. So the Colts do have a reliable backup quarterback in their system. And so when you look at the Colts, they had a really good offseason, trading for defensive end DeForest Buckner. They signed cornerback Xavier Rhodes and defensive tackle Sheldon Day. They drafted wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. in the 2nd round, running back Jonathan Taylor in the 2nd round, safety Julian Blackmon in the 3rd round, and quarterback Jacob Eason, who I think can be a good quarterback in the NFL, out of Washington in the 4th round. And so I really do like what the Colts did this offseason. It may not be the big headline grabbers, but they made a lot of the smaller moves that I think takes this team to the next level. Then we have Jacksonville. By far the worst team in the division. And when you look at what the Jaguars have done, they just gutted their roster. I mean, they traded A.J. Bouye, traded Nick Foles, traded Yannick Ngakoue for below market value. I don't care what the GM says. The Vikings got him for next to nothing. A 2nd round pick for Yannick is, I promise you're not going to find a better player than this year's 2nd round than Yannick Ngakoue. But you might, I don't know. And then they released running back Leonard Fournette. It's obvious what the Jaguars are doing. They're not trying to win football games. They might be in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes this year. And I really feel bad for Gardner Minshew, because that's all you can really feel bad for. I mean, Gardner Minshew's a good quarterback, but they're not going to give him anything to work with this year so that he can be the scapegoat. Gardner didn't get it done. Guess we got to get Trevor now. And when you look at what they brought in, they did sign linebacker Joe Schobert. He's a good linebacker, very good linebacker. And now they have one of the most expensive linebacking cores in the league. But we know what they expect from Jacksonville, and that's nothing. And so that brings us to our AFC South standings. And coming in first place is the Houston Texans at 11-5, 4-2 in the division. The Indianapolis Colts are coming in second at 11-5, 4-2 in the division. The Tennessee Titans are coming in at third, 9-7, 3-3 in the division. And the Jaguars are coming in fourth at 4-12, 1-5 in the division. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section below. Can't wait to read it.